Well, hello everyone. Um, I'm here with Shawn D. Standfast, and I actually don't know if anyone is in the chat yet or not. But if they're not, this will still go live in a little while, and everybody can watch it. But Shawn D. Standfast and I just finished this book right here, Along Tomorrow. Yep,
Yeah,
Sean's got it.
yeah.
Yeah, Sean's got a nicer version than mine. Um, but yeah, we just finished this, and I am really happy I finally read this. Sean, this is a reread for you.
Yeah, but it was a long time ago that I read it, and I'm glad I did now because we'll get into a few things that I was sort of I'd either missed it completely, which I think I did miss a few things, or I forgot about it. So I'm glad I reread it.
Yeah, I'm glad I finally read it. I actually have a list of about 100. It's up to about 120 books that I know of science fiction books that I know I want to read, and this was on there. So this was like halfway down the list, and I'm glad I got to it because yeah, this is one of those dystopian, post-apocalyptic type stories that I haven't read enough of. I've read a few, but I haven't read as many as I'd like.
Hmm. Yeah, it's one of those things because there's lots of talk at times of or questions about what is dystopian, what is post-apocalyptic, what is apocalyptic literature. But
Yeah,
this one is like, post obviously means after an apocalypse, and that's what this one is. But it's like it starts out probably about 70 years after, and it goes up to about 80 some years after a nuclear holocaust. So it's a dystopian society as well. So it's post-apocalyptic dystopianism, I
yeah,
guess.
80 years would be about right because now one of the things I found interesting about this is the first two-thirds of the book there is no science fiction really. Um, there's talk of the apocalypse and things like that, but there's not really um, there, and they talk of science things, but you don't see it until much later in the book.
Yeah, yeah, it's subtle. I just wanted the comment here. I remember that the docket cover. I remember being at school and told to get underneath the desk, and I got in detention and I got punished because I said that's not going to do anything if a bomb falls, and they didn't. The teachers didn't like that.
That's awesome. You
But
know, I
it's uh oh, sorry, where did you leave off there? Sorry, my brain's a sieve. Where did you leave
no
off?
about how long it took
Oh yeah,
for the first like scientific thing of thing to happen in the book. It took what two-thirds, 70% of the book. But one of the things I really like about this though, the characters. I mean, she writes some great characters in this thing. It's as much a character study as it is anything.
yeah. She was a good writer, and I started to wanted to read more of her because she started cropping up at times over the last year. Um, um, yeah. Well, I'm sure there were that as well. I don't remember the chewing gum. But uh, she started cropping up. Leigh Brackett started cropping up, especially I think it was last year's um, New World's November, because I read some Edmund Hamilton stories, and she was married to Edmund Hamilton, and he was
Oh, I didn't
writing.
know that.
Yeah, he was writing in the late 20s. Sort of, he sort of his nickname was something like Planet Destroyer or something like that,
Oh, okay.
and her name was Queen of the Pulps, I think, or something like that, or Queen of the Space Opera, something like that. But anyway, I started getting, and then for Dictember, the September that we did the detective fiction, and I did The Big Sleep, and she was a screenwriter on The Big Sleep. So it started like, and then she started popping up in other stuff I'm reading, and I'm going, I've got to look at this. Somebody's telling me something here that I have
Yeah.
to do this. and like, yeah, she was born in 1915 and she died in 1978, a couple of years after her husband Edmund Hamilton died. And most people probably, her claim to fame for younger people is writing the script or the story for Empire Strikes Back.
I,
Um,
I was really surprised by that.
yeah.
I,
Well,
I
I
didn't
don't
know
hold that against her. I don't hold that against her, though.
that. It said she wrote quite a few things with Jules Furthman as well, and I'm not exactly sure what else he wrote, Jules Furthman, but it looks like she wrote some westerns with him, and of course William Faulkner on The Big Sleep, and
Yeah.
she did quite a few screenplays, it seems.
Yeah, well, she did Rio Bravo, and then she novelized Rio Bravo. She worked on, I think, the later Long Goodbye, a whole bunch of stuff. But her first published book was, I'm just looking it up here. I always get the name wrong. Let me just give me a second here because I'm on the wrong page. Um, it is No Good from a Corpse, and that was 1944. And um, that was what's his name? Howard Hawks, when they were doing The Big Sleep. He really loved that book, and he said, "Get that guy Leigh Brackett." She was hired thinking that like they thought she was a guy. You know.
Yeah, that's funny. That happened. Well, it was James Tiptree Jr. actually. Um, if somebody doesn't know, was a female writer, and she did that because she did not want to have to fight to get her books into publication. And who can
Yeah,
blame her?
well, I think the main that's the thing with her. I think one of the main reasons too, because when she started writing, she was going through for she was doing psychology at university and she was writing other papers. She did not want that to taint. She thought it
Yeah,
could taint her professional reputation, not her sort of moonlighting job of writing this silly fiction, you know.
I got you.
But
Hey,
yeah,
Tom
the book.
and Angie.
Sorry.
Oh, I was saying hi to Tom and Angie.
Yeah. Yeah, this book is really good. Like you're saying, like it starts out, it's basically well, there, I don't know. I always figure you got there are going to be spoilers, but it's sort of just almost early industrial age, the technology at this, and it's very fundamentalist. Really, like they're in small little villages because it starts out with the like the 30th Amendment to the American Constitution. No city, no town, no community of more than 1,000 people or 200 buildings to the square mile shall be built or permitted to exist anywhere in the United States of America. And the idea for that was that if there were no cities, there were no targets for the nuclear missiles to hit.
Yes.
And yeah, so this is after like global apocalyptic nuclear war. So it's a little, but people thought in the 50s that we could survive. There was that belief that there would be a survival factor after it. And this is like 70 or 80 years later. Their agrarian societies, but very fundamentalist religion, either different religions, but thinking that technology is evil and everything like that.
And if you'll notice in this story as well, there's no talk of, because it was written in 1950, there's no talk of radiation from from the uranium. There's nothing like that. They don't talk about that yet. That comes a little later when the United States started doing uh, some testing. In the in well, where was that, in the Caribbean that they did that?
South Pacific, the Bikini Atolls and stuff like
That's
that was,
right.
yeah, that was in the late 40s. They were doing that. So they did know, like right away after Hiroshima, they did know that it was. But yeah, it didn't get really into the public's mind, I don't think, for quite a while. And yeah, there is nothing talking about radiation sick other than the grandmother of Len Coulter talks about these horrible times after the devastation. But there's no details. There's no details whatsoever. She just talks, and they, they don't like it because they don't want people, especially where the main character Len Coulter, he's a teenager where it starts out, and uh, he he questioned things. He has an inquisitive mind, but that they like, the fundamentalist thing of the science, like, you don't want that. They don't want that because they saw where it led to cities and the destruction. However, there's this story of this Barterstown that is supposed to be, it's potentially a city still, and anybody who's affiliated with it or they think is from there, they will kill them because it's against everything that they're believing in to try to rebuild society under a fundamentalist, zealous situation.
Yeah, I really like what she did here. How kind of she took it back to the fundamentals, took it back to the Mennonites, but some of my favorite characters in this, even though they were probably the most, or my favorite group of people from this story, even though they were the most disturbing, I would say would have been the new Ishmaelites. They
Mhm.
were very, very interesting. And you have to think after something like that, someone like that would probably exist. Some group would probably exist like that. I mean, there are people like that these days, but I don't know. They were kind of disturbing. They were like the Hills Have Eyes version of religious zealots.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. And on her planet, and where, especially in the United States, there's all these little factions, these little groups, and each village sort of looks on the others with, contempt at times. And then you got the farmers out around everything, and they they are zealous too. It's just everything. But yeah, the characters are really neat because um, like, you've got this Len and his cousin Esau that they watch somebody as their teenager being stoned to death at a religious preach, like, ceremony, because he was accused of being from this evil place, this Barterstown, that is the old ways that they talk about. And but they also find a radio, or what they come to figure out is a radio, and they hear voices on it eventually, and they get punished really severely for this, whipped, basically spanked and everything, and they run away to look for this place. And then after they run away, we jump ahead to their adults, and it turns out that, yeah, they are looking for this place, but they have a friend out there, but they don't realize it. And then they're seeing all this stuff culminating of, you know like, real hatred when this town is going just one building more, by the sounds of it, like a warehouse to make things better. That it's going over the 2,000 buildings, and it's got the farmers, they come and burn the town and kill, as many people as they can, to make sure that they're saying it's the Lord's will, and it's the Constitution, it's the American law, that you can't do this. Nobody questions this. Like, it's a society where there's no questions whatsoever, and that's where the Len and Esau have questions, and they won't
Yes.
accept no answers.
Yeah. I like that a lot about them because those guys, they remind me of a whole lot of people that I know these days that who believe, and I'm one of those people who believe that you should question absolutely everything. And if somebody tells you not to question something, someone tells you you're not allowed to ask questions, well, then it becomes a cult, and there's talk, a lot of talk about that in this book, being able to question things, being able to make up your own mind. Um, and I really like that aspect of this book. Leigh Brackett, she seemed to be on that side of things, and that's something that I really, really appreciated that she did. Doesn't seem to be the kind of person who is, well, she's not an Ayn Rand, or someone like that. She believes in individuality. She believes in, sure, she may have been a patriotic person, but she was also not blindly patriotic. You could tell she didn't blindly believe anything, and I really like that about this story, because I think that's one of the main and most important messages from the story, is to not blindly believe, even though, in my opinion, most of the time the message is second to the story. I think it should be. I think a novel writer should be writing a story first and foremost, and a message second, if that's what they want. And she did that here.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is one of my favorite reads for a little while. I really did enjoy this book a lot, and I like those aspects of it.
Yeah, well, and the other thing, going back to the thing where there's no real science fiction at the beginning. It's more of a well, like a Huck Finn type story. Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn. They've run away, but you don't know. There's all these myths and the thoughts in his head of what this place is going to be, this Barterstown, what it's going to be like, and the reader goes along with that, and that's what keeps you going in the story while you're learning, or while she's describing what's left of civilization there, and showing that they are like every place they go, you've got to keep your mouth shut, keep your head down, conform. And then they get to this place where it's not the huge cities that they expected, or luxury living, but you can ask questions, you can learn. However, you are still within confinement. You have to conform, even so. Like, while it's not um, religious zealotry, it's almost like knowledge and scientific zealotry that they believe. Like I don't know how much we go, like there's this could get into spoilers here, but the thing is, like, Leigh Brackett sort of comes to the conclusion that I think she does anyway, that they're both the same in many ways, but once the cat's out of the bag of science, you can't put it back. You cannot put it back in the bag, and all you can do is to try to figure out ways of controlling it so other people can't misuse it. And I think that's part of the message that she's saying here.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I like that message. I like, I mean, I like what she said. Um, you know, Sometimes you just have, you have to do damage control, and that's pretty well what this a lot of this story is about, or this story is about, or that's a huge part of the moral of the story, is sometimes you just got to play damage control, and our characters kind of come to that at the end as well.
Yeah.
And another thing was, another message I got from it: the grass is not always greener, because
Yeah.
Len, our main character, he saw both sides, and he at the very end just had to make up his mind. He had, but then again, he wasn't given much of a choice, was he?
Yeah, well, that's the thing, and that's where it comes in, that you've got to conform even in this other place. But it's sort of like, it's the question of, do you go with religious zealotry for the future of humanity? But the thing is, like I say, the cat is out of the bag there. And, regardless of how many zealots there are out there, there's always going to be somebody else, maybe in the world, that's going to reinvent the wheel, in a sense. Well, reinvent the nuclear missiles. And
Yeah, and you may as well have the people with the right ideas, to have access instead of, or at the very worst to have to defend against the people who have, you know, who have the bad ideas or an evil human being.
well, I
Let's
think I think the other thing is to be kind of rational too, and I think that's sort of a subtext to this, that even though they are conforming in this new place under the science, that if you're able to question, you can then question what is going on there to a certain extent and maybe make a change. But in the religious fundamentalism thing, you can't question. You can't question. It's I think that's pretty clear. What she's showing is pretty clear for that.
Yeah, I liked when Lynn and what was his name, Esau, when they got to, where they were going, um, they asked questions,
Yeah.
and they were actually like, well, this just seems like a natural part of it, But if they would have asked those questions back where they were from, it would have been a different story.
Yeah, well, they got beaten for it. They got beaten for asking questions,
Yeah,
um and that's the thing. Yeah, because and people are going to be inquisitive, but then yeah, you just keep your head down and live a life. But no, yeah, it's a great book, and like, it was written in 1955, was it? Yeah, let me just check there again.
was it 55?
Yeah, 1955, and she won the first, what is it, Hugo Award, the first woman to win a Hugo Award for in 1956. And
Wow.
it's it's very in some ways it's very typical of the post-apocalyptic books, I think, that were written at the time, or somewhat typical, because you've got similar things like Canticle for Leibowitz, um that was written, and it's got religious zealotry in it as well. But the other theme of in here, they're afraid that they're gonna learn the secrets again, or rediscover nuclear war or nuclear power, and build missiles again and do the same thing over. But in Category for Leibowitz, that happens. There's this cycle that they're in medieval times pretty well, and then they build up the technology again, and then they destroy each other, and then they go back to the other, and it's like a, 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 no, whatever it's called, seesaw, back and forth. And there's a lot of other ones. What else I was thinking? But with the religious aspects, there really is a lot, like the Chrysalids by John Wynne. I'm just pulling out some here that there's very fundamentalist religion there, and a lot of other ones at the time were based on religion. That religion takes over and controls everybody's lives in a dystopian sense. One I want to read, I was mentioning to Scott earlier, was Shadow on the Hearth by Judith Merrill. It's her first book, published in 1950, and it's post-apocalyptic. It's basically about the very simple story, if I remember correctly, is a housewife that's trying to keep her family together after the bombs hit New York City. And it's because it's 1950, I think it's one of the first novels of this kind of genre.
Okay.
And so it's there was lots written at the time. You've got Pat Frank's Alas Babylon, which is a little different, but there still is this, if I remember right, little hope for humanity. But then there's all these other ones, like there's the Death of Grass, but it's not nuclear, but it's showing this religious aspect, or the chaos that follows an apocalyptic type event, or Earth Abides, which is a fabulous one as well. It's not nuclear destruction, but what happens after it I think there's a lot of things that are similar in the genre. Anyway, it's just it's great stuff. And oh, the other thing I wanted to mention was I'd forgotten in this, because I love City by Clifford Simak. Of course, I got to get him in there. But it's not in a post-apocalyptic world. You could argue at times it's dystopian to a certain extent, but the whole thrust of this was that the cities were abandoned because like if there's no targets for the enemy to hit, which were cities, then there would be no nuclear war. And that is the whole 30th Amendment in the Long Tomorrow, that they won't build cities again, so there are no targets. So I thought that was very interesting, comparison there. And I wonder, like, again, I want to start looking into more of this, and I wonder if this was, I tried to do a search to see, but I couldn't find anything. I wondered if people were talking about this, like sociologists and political scientists at the time. I wonder if there was discussion about this in the background that these writers actually picked up on, like Clifford Simak would have, because he was a newspaper man and he wrote a lot of journalism on science. So I wonder if there is that. But I did find a book that looks really neat that I want to get. It's the American City in post-apocalyptic fiction, and that book I have to get eventually.
That sounds really, really good. Yeah, because there were a whole lot of post-apocalyptic fiction written about the United States by American authors.
Yeah,
Because you had George R. Stewart, Pat Frank, Leigh Brackett, who Judith Merrill, you said,
yeah,
um,
yeah.
and
Tons of
it
stuff.
still continues to this day. This is still a big subgenre, post-apocalyptic, nuclear war, um, fiction, where a whole lot of, let's see, I had a book here. I had a lot of books. We're going through our shelves and moving a whole lot of stuff around. I'm putting all my omnibus stuff on these two shelves here, and probably this one down here. But that's why I'm not able to find the books when I'm looking for them. Well, here's one actually. It's Wastelands, and
Yeah,
this is
I
a
see that. Yeah,
yeah, uh, this is about dystopian and post-apocalyptic futures after nuclear war or after some major events. And this is still a huge subgenre of science fiction, a major subgenre of science fiction, and very popular. I would say it might even be one of the two or three most popular subgenres of science fiction because they're, um, you know, even non-science fiction writers write science fiction books about it. So
yeah. Sorry, I'm just trying to, because if anybody's interested, I'm trying to find that book that I'm talking about here while you're talking. And I thought I had it bookmarked, but American
yeah, I,
City
I definitely want a copy of that. I'm gonna have to get a copy.
and Post. Let me see if I can find it here by doing Google it. Yeah, there it is. It's UCL Press, um, American Cities and Post-Apocalyptic Science Fiction by R. Yates.
And that's a reference book.
Well, yeah, it's going to talk about what was this? Visions of the American post city and post-apocalyptic ruin permeate literary and popular fiction across print, visual, audio, and digital media. American cities and post-apocalyptic science fiction explores the prevalence of these representations in American culture, drawing from a wide range of primary and critical works from the early 20th century to today, beginning with science fiction in literary magazines before taking in radio dramas, film, video games, and expansive transmedia franchises, Robert Yates argues that post-apocalyptic representations of the American cities are uniquely suited for explorations of contemporary urban issues. Sounds quite
Okay.
neat.
Yeah, that does. That does. I'd like to read that myself. I have to see if I can find a copy. I'm sure I can get one on eBay.
Yeah, the paperback doesn't seem to be too expensive. The paperback of it, I think I saw for like you should be able to get for like new $20, or less. It seems to be about 16 or 18 pounds. So
Well, that's really good. Okay. Yeah, yeah. I actually like this subgenre a lot of fiction. I always have. I've liked it. Even though I still say The Stand is one of my least favorite books of all time. Um, I still love the subgenre as a whole. I think it's almost always compelling because there are a lot of aspects of it that we're not too far from. We're a bomb away from it. We're one evil person away, and that kind of makes it compelling, I guess.
yeah, well, I guess you can blame Mary Shelley for creating the modern science fiction novel with Frankenstein, and then 8 years later you can blame her for starting the post-apocalyptic slash dystopian type novel as well with the Last Man in 98. I was going to say 1920, 1826.
Yeah, I have Frankenstein here, but I don't have um, The Last Man. I have not read The Last Man.
Yeah. Yeah, and then there's all the way through. There's so many that have been done that way. Jack London has done a story. I forget is it called, the Red Plague or something like that, or a very short thing. It's about a plague. There's lots of other ones. The Purple Cloud, turn of the 20th century. Um, Herman Hesse actually wrote one, something about the bead game or something like that. It's a dystopian. It's a dystopian novel. Herman Hesse. It's all sorts of people have a Brave New World for dystopian. Like they like I say, they sort of go hand in hand in some ways, because a lot of times the dystopian element comes after a apocalyptic event, but not always.
Right. Well, a Clockwork Orange. I don't think you ever really know what happened in a Clockwork Orange. I think it's just kind of a different world, different universe almost.
Yeah,
But
and there's other ones. It's like I can't remember in even Fahrenheit 451. I don't think there's a apocalyptic event. I can't remember now, but it is definitely um dystopian. That's for sure.
yeah, I'm due for a reread of Fahrenheit 451. I read it about every 5 years or so, and it has been a long time, and I'm starting to forget parts of it. So it's time to read it again. I've read it
Yeah,
4 times, probably something like that.
yeah, I've got to get a copy and reread it as well. But yeah, no, it's a fabulous genre, because I started a couple years ago starting to reread stuff like Death of Grass, On the Beach, Earth Abides. I got to get a copy of Alas Babylon. That's one of my favorites, or it
Yeah,
was.
well,
And I'd like to read it again.
yeah. Becky and I read Alas Babylon together about 4 or 5 years ago, and she liked it just as much the second time, and I liked it the first time. I really did enjoy that book. Um, yeah, it was sort of like in its characterization, The Long Tomorrow, Alas Babylon has great characterization as well. Not all these stories do, but I thought The Long Tomorrow and Alas Babylon had great characterization. Um, they really do spend time with the characters. They really flesh them out. And I haven't read anything else by Pat Frank. I don't
He didn't
think.
write much out. I think it's the only science fiction book. Or no, wait a minute. I'm thinking of Stewart,
Oh,
maybe of
George R. Stewart.
yeah, for Earth Abides. I can't remember which one it is. One of them really only wrote one science fiction book, and the other ones were sort of thriller type things, I think. and I can't remember which
Okay.
one it is now.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'll have to look that up. I have to look up both of those authors because I have no idea what else they wrote. Those are the only ones. Actually, I don't even think I've read Earth Abides. Not
Oh,
that I can remember.
that's really, really good. I like on my second read, I had a few issues with it, but they were just minor niggling ones. But it is a fabulous story. It's one of my favorites. It's like you just can go on like the stuff. I like the stuff that was written in the 50s. Really a lot. That's the stuff I want to concentrate on. Um, for my reading, because you've got, like I say, John Christopher's books. There's The Long Winter, or there's a couple of names for it, as well as the um, um, what's that?
That's Becky.
um, but yeah, and Day of the Triffids as well is another one, that's post-apocalyptic, but it's different, it's. And then we mentioned On the Beach, that's nuclear war, but that's not an American writer, but that's somebody else. And there are other ones. There's a lot of, there's British ones that talk about that. There, like I say, you say there's new ones. There's one I want to read. I can't remember her name. It's called The Carolinian Army, I think. It's set in England. I think it's post-nuclear war. Um, or is it just that they're flooding? Swan Song, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty good, yeah. But does
Yeah.
anybody know about the George Stewart or Pat Frank, whether they wrote anything else science fiction? Which one of them? I know one of them didn't write much else, and that's bugging me at the moment.
Hello, Becky and Tom and Brian. Let's see. I'm trying to look and see who all's in here, but yeah, yeah. I do love Swan Song, but yeah, I can't remember. I don't know of anything else that those two authors wrote. Those are the only two things that I've read, or the only thing that I read by them. And actually, I haven't read Earth Abides, but I know it's right there at the top of my list.
Yeah, like there's another one I was mentioning that because I was looking, I couldn't find my fifth edition of The Anatomy of Wonder, but this is the third edition, and I was looking up to see what they had to say for um, The Long Tomorrow, and they mentioned, comparing it to what is it? What's his name? Cooper. Oh, Edmund Cooper's 1973. The oh, sorry, I have to. My memory half the time is horrible. The Cloud Walker, and I was saying what that was before. It was kind of neat because, hi Becky, and there with this with Cadigo for Leibowitz, there's that cyclical thing. They build up and they have another nuclear war, and that was the fear of this one. But in the other one, it happens not once but twice or three times in nuclear war. So there's several civilizations that sort of come out of nuclear holocaust.
Cool. Yeah. I haven't read any Edmund Cooper at all. Isn't that who you said wrote
Yeah,
stories
his
or
stuff's
something?
okay. I remembered this one, but I sort of, I should say, I forgot this one until I read it in there, and then I remembered that they don't list it in here, so I guess they don't really think too highly of it
Oh,
because
okay.
it's not in it, other than just saying compare to, you know. But
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's an author. I don't know if I have anything by him on my list. Like I said, I've got a list of about 120 plus books now that I want to read, and I don't know if anything by Edmund Cooper is on the list. What is there anything you would recommend by him?
I off the top of my head, like I don't even know, like he's not. Oh, actually, there might be some things listed in here of him. Um, this is always just a possible go to. Um, let's see if I can find Cooper. See if they've got him listed here, because I know that book wasn't, but I can't remember if
I'll
anything
look.
else.
I'll look in the Ascent of Wonder, but I don't think he's got anything in here.
Oh, Seed of Light, yeah, 1959, episodic and space operatic novel in 3 parts. Yeah, that one I remember. He was a
Okay.
British reviewer. Deadly Image, but the American title, yeah, Uncertain Midnight. Yeah, this is another one. It's a post-apocalyptic or dystopian as Deadly Image.
Okay.
I remember these, but I don't remember them that well because he never struck me as a top shelf writer, but as style wise. But again, I wouldn't mind revisiting stuff. But for my post apocalyptic stuff, I want to sort of stick to the 50s, because the 50s was obviously an interesting period. The Cold War, the Red Scare, all this stuff, and it's all permeates through the films as well.
Okay.
So how's the chapter or anything? Yeah. Oh, yeah, I haven't read that one. I haven't read that.
Neither have I.
Yeah,
Is that 50s?
No, that's 70s, I think. Tom, when was that written? Off the top of my head, I'm not sure. I thought it was quite late. I thought it was 70-ish or later, but it might be earlier. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I'd have to look that up. And that's by Wilson Tucker.
Are there actually? Well, I'm sure there are probably post-apocalyptic alien romances.
1970.
50s?
Yeah, 1970 is when it was written.
Okay, yeah. So the memory works slightly occasionally.
Yeah, that is one I actually have never even heard of, but I got to remember that. I got to remember Wilson Tucker because that's something I want to read. Wasn't John Christopher his main stuff was 70s as well, wasn't it? Like Death of Grass and things like that.
No, that's 50. Death of Grass is 50s ish.
Oh, is it really?
I'm pretty sure. Let me. I don't like doing this on when I'm on the camera, but sometimes. Okay, John Christopher. Let's see here. Let's see. Bibliography.
Because that is some
56.
that's a book I only heard of like a year ago, and I've been wanting to read it.
Yeah, 1956. Which? Oh, sorry. Which?
The Death of Grass.
Oh yeah, no, that is fabulous. Michael K. Vaughan recently read the, but the American title is different. He wrote it under different names. He did a lot of. His real name was Sam Youd, I think it is. Yeah, Sam Youd, or Youd.
Oh,
And he wrote under that name as well. I'm looking for the one that Michael K. Vaughan was reading. It's the World in Winter, I think, is one of the titles.
yeah, I did see his review of that. He really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was good. It's not as good as Death of Grass, as he says. There were things that were a little, but it was good. Let's put it that way. Yeah, it's just a new ice age basically, and so everybody in Northern Europe and that moved to Africa. Basically, the rich
Wow.
or ones that could afford to, they moved to Africa, and so therefore the tables are turned. Let's put it that way.
That's a really cool premise, actually. Yeah, that's really cool. But I've been hearing nothing but good things about John Christopher, and that's just an author I've never picked up. I didn't even know the name until a year ago when I started hearing talk about him on BookTube. I mean, a lot of his stuff went out of print.
Probably, yeah. I think Death of Grass. Well, you can get Death of Grass in the Penguin Modern Classics.
Oh,
I know.
okay.
Oh, they did Death of Winter as well. They did a, but I don't know if it's still in print. They did a version of Death in Winter. Um,
Okay.
or I forget, because I forget the other name. I think the Death in Winter is the British name, but for some reason they decided. Well, even the Death of Grass, they changed it. It was called No Blade of Grass for the American title.
That's right. Um, I remember um, I remember Michael saying something about that when he did his review, but I completely forgot. So maybe I can find a copy that's affordable under that name instead of Death of Grass, because some of the older copies are really expensive because it went
Well,
out of print.
yeah, well, no, the Death of Grass is in print by Penguin Modern Classics, or it was very recently.
Okay, cool.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look at that because yeah, I've read some other Wilson Tucker stuff, but that one I've, like I say, it's I got to start writing this stuff down on a list of post-apocalyptic stuff. Even though there are, like I say, I want to stick to the '50s style, but I do. There's later ones that I want to read, and that's one of them.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back on this video and start. And I don't have a pen or a pencil here with me, but I'm gonna start writing these down when this video comes back up, and I'll watch it. So yeah, because Tom's mentioned at least two books here that I want to read.
There. I have another book too. I don't know where it is. It's somebody sent it to me a year or two ago. It's basically about nuclear war in fiction, in literature, nuclear holocaust.
Okay.
So it's quite a thick book, and I don't know where it is at the moment because I've just moved. I used to, this is a thing that's really bugging me because I used to have the piles around. Like I used to have a lot of piles of books here. I knew where everything was. Now I've moved those to get ready to clear off some shelves. Now I don't know where anything is.
Oh no. Yeah, we're kind of in that boat right now. We're um, trying to get rid of a whole lot of books that we're done with and that we're not going to read again, and just pass them on to somebody, and put all of our good stuff that we want to read or that we want to read again on these shelves behind us. These one, two, three. We got another one over here. We got another one that's about to go over here, and but our books are all over the place right now. I mean, we're in a mess.
Yeah, well, I know that. I got to clear out stuff because I want to get along here my science fiction reference material on the shelf because I'm struggling now because it's here, there, and everywhere, and I want to look up something, and I you know it's too much of a pain trying to find the book, and I need to
Yeah,
have it on the shelf. But yeah,
yeah,
no, you got some new books, and I've got a few things that I've shown some, but over the last month or so. But yeah, did you want to
yeah,
start?
yeah. We can go through those. Um, I'll start with this one right here. It's the Norton Critical of the Time Machine. H.G. Wells. You were telling me about this, Sean. I found out about it after I read the other one, and I wanted this one because I want to go through and read these footnotes and these notes and everything that's in here because this will tell me a whole lot more. And it's got a lot of extra essays and criticism in the back.
Yeah, I'm
So
gonna look at that edition. I've got the newer edition. That looks thicker than the newer edition. I'm
let's
gonna
see.
have to look
It's
at.
Let me see how many pages it is. It's a total of with bibliography and all 268 pages.
No, it could be the same because they usually what they usually do is they usually when they put a new edition, they'll add an essay or two, and then or take out an essay or two, which sometimes is like, don't take it out, just add to it, people.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding. I don't know why they would do that, but you'll be happy to see these, Sean, because I plan on reading all of these in the next couple of months. I got Shakespeare's Planet
Yeah.
by Simak. Not in the best condition, but these things are tough. These uh these old Berkeley paperbacks, man, these things are tough and they will last for a long time. Even the
Steve
pages are
Donahue
pretty
reads
good.
them, unless Steve Donahue reads it.
Yeah, yeah.
Then it'll be
I won't. Yeah, if I send a book to Steve, it'll be given and not loaned. But I got All Flesh is Grass.
I think
What
Nathan's going to be reading that soon too.
I
From
saw that.
yeah. What's his channel name again?
Nathan's is the Rambling Reviewer.
Yeah, Rambling Reviewer. I always forget that. He's going to change the name, but yeah, if anybody wants to look at Inspector here too has a booktube channel as well now. So
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah,
Spectre,
yeah,
I'll go
go
subscribe to you as soon as this is over.
yeah. So yeah,
Cool.
he's got a channel now.
Okay. Cool. I will definitely check your channel out, Spectre. I got Destiny Doll.
Yeah,
Um,
that cover on that one. That's the one I first read.
okay. I like that. It's actually got kind of a cubist look to it, and I like that a lot. Very cool.
Yeah, I want to get. Well, I'd like to get that edition again.
Yeah, this is Berkeley as well. And Pan Books, which I think isn't that British?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And the last Clifford Simak I got was Project Pope.
Yeah, I've got that. That's the British hardcover. I really I like the jacket on that.
Yeah, I do too. The problem I have with it though, let me show you the naked hardcover here. While it was in the post, somebody did this to it.
Yeah.
Somebody really put something heavy on it, or they dropped it and really did a number on that corner. I hate that, but it's still a good looking book and still totally readable. And look how white the pages are in this thing. Really nice.
Yeah, there are some like I think is that Sedgwick and Jackson or Sedgwick.
You mean what's yeah, Sidgwick and Jackson Limited.
Yeah, they're pretty good for keeping the color, and it's even that's what this one is as well. The Judith Merrill Shadow on the Hearth. It's toning a little bit, but it's not bad. And this is 1953.
And actually, this looks like the same dimensions as that book. You know,
Yeah,
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 it's short.
yep.
Yeah, I like this a lot. It's short, but a little bit thicker. So
Basically the same size almost as a like these. They're about the same size hardcovers.
speaking of which, I know I forgot one of the books I was going to bring. It was um, Apollo Moon Dust. I have Apollo Moon Dust in the SF Masterworks that I picked up too. But yeah, I'll show. Well, I guess I can show mine, and you can show what books you want to show. Then I showed this earlier, but it's my it's illustrated. It's an illustrated Frankenstein. Got some illustrations and stuff in there. Got a good deal on it. They got this one and they got the Time Machine at Books A Million for $10, and I don't have the Time Machine one yet, but it looks really nice. I mean, but I don't know if I care for the the tinting and all that stuff in the pages, but it's still pretty nice and one of my favorites. So of course I want a nice version of it. I got Emily St. John Mandel Station 11.
Mm.
I've heard really good things about this. So
Yeah, I've not read that, but yeah, I'm aware of it.
okay, yeah, that's something I want to get to. The Integral Trees by Larry Niven.
That's a little weird, but it's interesting.
Yeah, I've had this book like 3 times and have never read it, so I got it to read it. Of course, Hard SF Renaissance. Science Fiction Century. I just got this one yesterday, I believe, or the day before, and I got like 8 books, 8 or 9 books, uh, in the mail yesterday or the day before. I can't remember which, and The Ascent of Wonder.
Uh,
So
yeah,
I wanted all 3 of these.
yeah, I've got to get the other two or replace them because I used to have them, but mine is the British edition of that, and it's not very well made. So I'd like to replace it with that edition, the American
With
edition.
this one. Yeah,
Yeah.
this one's in good condition. And even back when this was, when did this first come out? Like early, just after 2000. Let's see.
I can't remember the date now.
Probably something like that, just after 2000. But it was $35 even then. This is
Yeah.
very nice. And I just have like 4 more paperbacks here to show. I got Joan D. Vengi, the Snow Queen. Um, uh, Science Fiction Reads told me about this one, and so he said this was great, and he really likes her writing. John Scalzi, Old Man's War. Have you read this one, Sean?
Don't think so. I'm aware of it, but I don't think I've read that one.
Yeah, I've read one of his books, and I just really didn't care for it. But I've heard that this is better for people um, who didn't care for Red Shirts. So, because Red Shirts was a comic novel that to me just didn't work. Comedy novel. Dragonflight by Anne McCaffrey. I actually bought this one brand new, and I bought this one thinking this was going to be the same edition as this one.
Mm.
Turns out it showed the cover to this edition, and it came like this. So I was pretty pissed off about that.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind rereading the Pern. I don't know. Is it just Dragon Riders of Pern or whatever? I
Yeah.
don't know what the full name is for the series.
But yeah, it's Dragon Riders.
Yeah, there's so many of the later ones that I've never read, and I guess her son is carried on as well.
Yeah, there are 23 books I think that she wrote in the Pern saga. So.
Oh, blimey. I might have read 5 or 6, maybe at the most.
Yeah, and like you said, they're still going with her son. But yeah, 23, I believe that she wrote.
Jesus.
Yeah, but yeah, that's all my books. That's all I wanted to show today. Trying to straighten my camera. There we go.
Yeah, there's a few things that I've already showed a few people this, but this might be interesting to people. I've actually got everything this guy wrote now. We've got Into Darkness, A.G.C. Clarke. Not Arthur, Alfred Charles George Clarke.
I had no idea.
Yeah, and it's 1961. It's a Digit book, British publisher, which are really cool covers.
Yeah.
But when I got this, I thought I looked him up to see actually who he was. And he's written 2 books. I forget what he did, but he didn't write anything else. And then, like it mentioned, The Mind Master. I thought, I wonder if I can get that. So I bought a copy. It's the only one I could really find, but it's in rough shape. But it's not too bad. But it's a mystery. It's a thriller type thing. So okay.
Cool.
But yeah, it's the same guy. Man, there's no date on this one at all. It's got to be 60s as well. And in the group that the New Worlds, and we're talking, or I was starting putting up, we were talking about Robert Silverberg and how prolific he is, and he did. There's 2 hard case crime ones he did, and I ordered this for really, really cheap. And I think you've got this one.
Yes, I have that. I have that one.
And I ordered the other one. And I did order one of his sort of erotica that's been reprinted. But they canceled the order, so I won't be getting that one. So I
Oh
got that.
wow.
And a couple of things that these I've been accumulating over basically a month now. But
Hi, Crystal.
Matt at Science Fiction Reads and I are going to embark on, and it is funny, Steve mentioned it in his New Worlds November video when he was what is it, Hidden Planet, that Donald Wollheim collection on Venus, and he mentioned Pamela Sargent's this is Venus of Dreams. This is the British. It never came. Well, if you want an Easton Press hardcover, then that's the only way you can get a hardcover. This is the British edition, and I've got. And it was cheaper. It was less than about a third of the price to buy a hardcover first edition than a ratty paperback of the second book.
Wow. I'm grabbing something from back here.
I'm looking forward to getting the third one, and then we're going to read that. Definitely.
Cool.
And
yeah, that sounds interesting. I haven't read anything by her.
Two last things I bought. Well, this is something that I've had for quite a while. I don't know if I've ever showed it. Is Cordwainer Smith's North Australia.
Okay.
And it's the proper novelization. Sorry, I'll just need to lean forward and reach over because I dug out some old paperbacks here. It's the proper novelization of The Planet Buyer and the Underworld, the Underpeople.
Oh, cool.
And
okay.
Split it up into two. It's his only science fiction novel that he did. And so I've got the original, the way that they showed up, and this one, and his complete short stories. And these are Northeastern Science Fiction Association Press volumes.
Wow. I love that. I love that Northeastern volume you have there. That is a nice looking book.
Yeah, and there's several more that I want to get of them slowly over. But the thing is, they do sometimes go to print, and they're a lot. Like Judith Merrill, there's 2 volumes of Judith Merrill short stories, her single short stories, and then 3 novels that she wrote. But yeah, I don't know if anybody's interested in these, some reference stuff. These sort of came with the other. It was I got a nice present of a bit of cash from one of my subscribers, and it's nondescript, but this is Index to Science Fiction Anthologies and Collections. This is the first volume from it doesn't, well, it's basically from the beginning by William Contento, and it's literally exactly what it says. It's an index to all the anthologies. This one's up to 1977, I think, and it goes by author. You can look up any short story you want or any author, and you can find out where it's published. And this one goes up to 1983. No, 2 volumes. And then there's later volumes that sort of go up a little further, but I'm not too interested in those really. But I do want to get a third one that is thematic. It's by somebody else. It's themed, so you can look up themes and find short stories.
Shawn, I should have gotten you that Storyteller Source book. To show you that too. I'll do that another time. You can look and see how that looks. It's really cool too.
This came today, and I'm disappointed with it because they did not mention it was super cheap though. They did not mention that it was a print on demand. It's another one of these indexes, but for supernatural index, a listing of fantasy, supernatural, occult, and weird and horror anthologies. It goes up to It's by Mike Ashley and William G. Contento.
Oh, Mike Ashley. Nice.
It must go up to like 94, 95, probably the end of 95. So it's ugly cased crap, you know.
Is
But
it poorly put together? Like,
yeah, it is. It is. And the font is quite dark. It's small to begin with, and it's thick and dark, so it's hard to actually read. But it's, you know, columned. So yeah, so that's stuff that I've got over. Well, but I got this, and there's another one I want to get. It's for mysteries and crime fiction as well. I wouldn't mind getting that.
okay. Cool.
I love me reference works.
Yeah. Yeah. I ordered the one you mentioned the other day, Thursday, I think. And it's about horror, fantasy, and something
Yeah.
else.
Well, yeah, horror and weird. Maybe just weird fiction. Maybe I can't remember now.
Maybe. Yeah, I can't remember either. But it's got film, it's got books, it's got uh, art, it's all kinds of stuff.
It's the version of this put together in an omnibus by Neil Barron, and these are just fantastic references. I've got the first edition, the second edition, third edition, and I got the newest, the fifth, the last edition it'll ever be in printed form.
Cool.
I need the fourth edition someday. And why, you ask? Well, because there's different things in each, and different essays, and they put extra stuff in, but they take extra stuff. They take stuff out. The first volume has a lot more older material in than the later ones generally.
Cool.
Yeah. So I think that's it. That's my basically for months, other than a couple other paperbacks. Yeah, like that I think I was showing. It's another digit. And this is the one you like the cover for this one. And I'll be doing a paperback parade on the artist.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's one of my favorite covers, probably from any science fiction book ever. I like that a lot.
Just A.E. Van Vogt stuff. So just filling in a few holes of my A.E. Van Vogts when I can.
Cool.
That's
it. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that's it for books.
Okay. Tom was asking what we're reading for AI week. And hi Mindy. I have this chosen right now.
Yeah,
Android. Yeah, this was recommended by Brandy, the Booklectic, and this is something that I think I'm going to be interested in and will like reading. She really liked it, and Brandy and I seem to hit it off a lot where tastes are concerned, where reading tastes are concerned. So she likes hard science fiction. I like it too. And I'm going to be reading probably some more stories out of here. I think I've read this whole thing, but The Complete Robot. This is one of my favorite books ever. So yeah, so I'm going to pick some stories out of here, whether I've read them or not. There are some great stories in this book. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to cheat on length this coming week because
cool.
I'm getting back into the Future History project that I've been doing. And the next things are Roger McBride Allen's trilogy. I'm just looking at them: Caliban, Inferno, and Utopia. And I'm going to start reading those and hopefully a lot more.
Cool. Yeah, Gareth, I am going to take something from that. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, I don't have that book in here, but I am definitely going to take some things from the Pseudo People. And I think I have the same edition you have. I'm pretty sure. So yeah, definitely. And maybe even thinking machines. I have that as well. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I'd love to get a hardcover of the Thinking Machines because it's got, I think, about a half a dozen more stories in. Like they always did that when they put them to paperback. They always cut out stories, and then the British editions as well. But you gotta love those covers on those the British Grayson anthologies. They're just fabulous.
yeah. I'm loving the vintage covers, especially the 40s and 50s. My God, those covers were just great. And those covers you just showed were some of my favorite ever. So
Yeah, for that one, the Contact, I'm going to do a paperback parade for it. I just have to assemble it about the artist. I was able to find out who the artist was.
Tom,
Yeah,
yeah, we were just talking about William Gibson yesterday, I think it was, Sean,
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
Matt, and yourself and me. And Neuromancer was one of those books I didn't appreciate when I first read it, but it's something that stuck with me for a long time. And so now I kind of think of it fondly. But when I first read it, I didn't know what to think about it. So yeah, very
yeah.
interesting.
I read it. I read the trilogy. I think I read all three. But I didn't get along with his, like I said in the group, his writing style. But he is something, and I do have. I'm pretty sure I have all three. I actually have four. Is Mona Lisa Overdrive one of those? I can't
Yes,
remember. Yes. Yeah, but there is one that I can't remember, or is it, or Zero is the other one. But then
Count
there's another,
Zero or something like that.
yeah, but there's another one that I have. I don't think it's part of it. I don't think it's the fourth volume. But anyway, I think I got four volumes that I picked up as remainders, really really cheap a couple of years ago, and on in the hopes of getting back into them. So that's something maybe in the new year we could do. There's so many things in the new year I want to do
Yeah,
because I want to
me too.
read. So I want to read this here, but also in tandem with rereading because I've never read this. I've only read a couple of her short stories, and she did a Isaac Asimov sort of at the time of sort of Elijah Bailey story, sort of short story called Strip Runner in the Foundation's Friends, and it
Oh,
is
I read
amazing.
that.
It's
Yeah,
amazingly good. And I
yeah, it
immediately
is.
about this, and I wanted to get it, but I could never find a copy cheap enough. But now I'm going to read that. But then, and sort of, I want to read back and forth with these is or reread Kim Stanley's Mars trilogy.
Yeah, I need to read that for the first time. So I've got that on my TBR for 2023, the Mars trilogy. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it
those
just
are that.
because terraforming the planet, and I just thought they'd be neat to read together.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Sean, I guess we're
Yeah.
just about done. But thank you for coming by. That was a lot of fun. I really do recommend The Long Tomorrow. Like wholeheartedly recommend that book to anybody who likes classic science fiction.
Yeah, and then
Excellent.
this, that'll take care of my video, I guess, for for the book. So, and then if I read anything else now until Tuesday, I'll do a video for that for week. Was it week 3? Yeah, we're on week 3. Yeah, we're finishing up week 3.
Yeah. I got like three more short stories to read, and then I'll be done with week three because I read Becky and I read uh, Who Goes There to well we actually listened to it to the audiobook version of it together. The reader was horrible, but he can't read. I mean, he can't ruin that story. That's just a great story all around. Um, and I got like three more I'm going to do. So, but yeah, it's been a good week, and The Long Tomorrow. Um, I'm just really happy got it read. Loved it.
Tom was saying that like he was reading, I guess, Neuromancer before he'd been on a computer.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember because when was that written? Because I started, I remember in high school, when I was going to high school in like 80, 81 or something like that, and we were working. I took a computer course, and so it was all DOS, and like I learned a little bit, but that was it. And then I started working somewhere where they were selling, science fiction books on bulletin boards. So it was like, in the early 80s, early internet bulletin boards.
Cool.
Remembers those. But yeah, no, I think I knew a little bit about computers, but that just, yeah, the computer aspects in there just, so yeah, but what, can't remember when that was. That was early 80s. I'm sure it was. Neuromancer. I'm sure it was.
Probably. I'm not exactly sure, but yeah, probably early 80s. I mean, he had a vision, and his vision changed a lot of things. Um, but
Well,
yeah,
in combination with it, we were talking about Bruce Sterling as well, just to end up on, I guess, because the Difference Engine I want to reread, because that's I like I'm not sure if I like cyberpunk. That is definitely the jury's out for me on that, but I
me
do
too.
like steampunk. I do like steampunk.
Yeah, the jury's out for me on Cyberpunk because I really, really don't like Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson. Like, absolutely detest that book. There are only three books in my life that I've read that I detested. Two were by Stephen King, and the other one was by Neil Stephenson. It was Snow Crash.
Well, it's probably the wrong one to read, maybe. That's the thing. I don't know. I've not read that one. I've not read that Neil Stevens one. But
Oh, yeah. Yeah. He said it came out in 84 and he read it in 96.
okay, so it came out in oh, okay. I thought it came out earlier than that for some reason. He was definitely writing. William Gibson was writing before that. But I'm not sure if he did any steam. I mean, whatchamacallit? Um, uh,
Cyberpunk?
yeah, Cyberpunk before that. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Ice Planet Barbarians. Who wrote that?
That was Ruby Dixon. Becky actually knows Ruby Dixon. She talks to her sometimes, and she's become like this huge alien science fiction romance author. And uh, but that's cool, Mandy. I did see you were going to read the Christina Singh book the other day, and that's cool. I didn't think of reading poetry for New World's November, but that's kind of neat. Never thought of that.
Yeah, you could get you if you can afford it, you can buy the poetry of Muad'Dib. Frank Herbert's did a whole book of poetry.
Really?
Yeah, for Dune. It's extremely expensive. I used to have a copy of it, and well, I like the Dune Encyclopedia is just stupidly priced, but Spectre put up a really good video about the reprint that's out there, which it actually looks like a good reprint. Yeah,
Wow.
blue aliens again. Okay. Jeez.
Well, Becky has read some of our type of science fiction, but at the same time, she's read about 20 alien romances since we started this. So she reads so freaking quick that it's ridiculous. Like, and I mean, they're 200 to 250, 300 pages, and she'll go through two in a day. I don't know how she reads that fast, but
Jeez.
yeah.
Yeah, well, didn't she read? Was it last year or for the horror one? She had this huge omnibus on ebook that was like 6,000 pages or something like that of romance.
Yeah. She read the whole thing.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
she's
Gareth was saying, yeah, the poetry, like science fiction poetry, is kind of interesting. There's several books out, and over the years, like little bits and pieces. Oh yeah, the Volgot both. Yeah, some of it I think actually is equal to it. But yeah, like every so often there'd be poetry that shows up in analog Amazon
Yep.
uh,
As
Asimov
a
and
model.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, Analog has a poetry section every month now.
Oh, now, really? Oh, okay. I
Yeah,
didn't
they
know.
sure do. They'll put two or three sci-fi poems or science fiction poems in there, and I think they're pretty cool sometimes. Sometimes they're really well done. Um, but yeah, they have a little poetry section in every issue now. So
I think in the new edition of this, they do have a poetry section, I think, listed of stuff.
I'm gonna have to look that up.
I think. No, I suggest like the fifth edition, if anybody is interested, like in this kind of thing, like having an annotated bibliography of it's selected works, but it's works. It's sort of for a librarian to say if you want to create a representative science fiction library, this is what you use. But it's also great to pull up stuff and get little descriptions, and they'll put it in context of other writers. There's little essays beginning each period, different genres and so forth. It's really really good.
Cool.
And
Yeah.
just make sure it's an Anatomy of Wonder by
Anatomy of Wonder.
Neil Barron.
And
And
and, and you recommend the fifth edition?
well, that's the newest one. That's the biggest one. It's the biggest one. So it
Okay.
has the most material in. It's over 1,000 pages, I think.
Oh wow. Okay. Good. All right. Well, I guess that's going to do it. I have to get me something to eat before my sugar crashes again. But
Yeah.
but hey, thanks, Sean. I really had fun.
Yeah. Thank you
And
for having me. It was a fun discussion.
yeah, and we had quite a few people in here at one time, so that's
Good.
good. And we do have a big announcement coming this week. Actually, probably tomorrow. We'll film the video tonight, Sean. It's about the big thing we're about to do, the New Worlds thing we're about to do. So we're gonna announce that tonight, and then we will have another live next week on the 26th at noon our time. So, but we'll let you know about all that. But thank you for coming, everybody, and thank you, Sean. I appreciate it.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.